All right, everyone, welcome to the podcast today. We have John, and I don't know if you saw it, but I was on his podcast a few months ago, and now he's on mine, and we had a great time talking about me, but I want to talk about you. So, he is a game designer, and he has a really exciting game system that I would love to talk about in detail. But before we get to that, I would like it if you could just introduce yourself a little bit and talk. Let's talk about how you first got into tabletop gaming.
Absolutely. So, greetings, everyone. My name is John. I'm the co founder of Legitimine Games. It's a little two-man company based in Athens, Greece. So, I'm in Greece. Thankfully, our time zones match and I don't have to stay up late for this one. It's like noon here. It's all good. And how I got to the hobby. It was with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it was my brother who is also co-founder. The two of us have Legitimate Games, who introduced me to some of his friends, where they were like a bit older, and I was like a teenager, but still I was really into Tolkien. I've read the Lord of the Rings and stuff, so I qualified to be invited into an Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game. And I still remember like rushing through the stairs to get there. I wasn't really sure how it's gonna be. It's like gonna be theatric. It's gonna be like Baldur's Gate 2 was like popular back then. So it was like one of the best experiences I've ever had playing these games. I immediately fell in love with the hobby. And then we started playing Vampire the Masquerade with my group. Actually,
Oh,
funny story. We went to a Quake 3 Arena tournament to participate with a trophy and stuff, but we were late when the qualifications of like the has ended. So we're like, oh man, what are we supposed to do now? And then I discovered like a pamphlet of Vampire the Masquerade, like a quick start that were actually printed out and they were given out for free. And I've played Dungeons and Dragons. This must be similar. And like my friends were like, edgy teenagers or something. We were really into metal and vampires. So it was like, oh,
yeah,
this is definitely a game
same
for us.
here.
Yeah, and we sunk our teeth deep into this game, and after like playing a few like 1 year maybe tops as a player, then like by late teens the forever GM template was bestowed upon me, which
Hmm.
basically still exists today. So yeah, like the vast majority of the sessions I've played, I've actually run and I haven't like participated as a player, like 9 out of 10 at least.
Hmm.
But this is the thing that I enjoy the most. It's not a curse. It's an honor
Hmm.
for me.
That's great. What do you think is the appeal of tabletop gaming? Because it's not like I'm of a strong opinion that I don't think it's really like anything else. I think maybe video games can come kind of close to that, but there's a theatrical aspect. There's an improvisational aspect, collaborative aspect. So all of those things are make it kind of this unique mix. And I
Mm,
think that a lot of people don't play it, but once they start playing it, they get hooked. A lot of people get into it very quickly. As soon as they understand, I think I've said this before, but I don't think I've ever had a situation where someone came and they played one session of D&D or Vampire and said, I never want to do this again. It's always been the opposite. Everyone always says, I want to play this again as soon as I can. What do you think is the appeal?
By the way, I think this statistic, counts with me as well. And my experiences, like, I don't think that I ever introduced the person to the RPGs, and they're like, it was fun, but it's not for me, or something like. They were all,
Mm.
everybody got hooked, some more than the others. But yeah,
Mm.
it's a really addictive kind of drug in a sense.
Right.
I think, as you mentioned, it's a combination of things, and I think it combines all the perfect elements from different mediums. For me, I've always used to say that it's the number one form of entertainment. If you haven't experienced it, It's the only way that you can't tell, but if you have experience, you immediately know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
It combines the, let's say, the improvisation from theater and all the improv stage, theater that you like go with the flow and what cues do the other actors give me, and the director, which is like the game master,
Mm.
and you just go with that. It combines the freedom of options and tactical play from something like TTR, like a video game RPG,
Mm.
like where you have like a dialogue options, but instead of having like four in a branching, you have like anything that you can imagine in branches into basically infinity.
Right.
And you also have the tactical play, depending on the game you play, like the top-down view or whatever, or even theater of mind. It's all good, but these are like video game elements. It combines from the medium of novels and books, like what my character is thinking, deep character development, obviously the beautiful narrations and descriptions, which is associated mainly with books. So basically, and in case of one shots, you can easily compare them with a movie, with a good movie. You start
Mm.
inciting incident, things happen, action, climax, ending, hero's journey, whole
Mm.
9 yards. So all these things are like the best from all worlds of medium. That's, I think, where the appeal is behind it.
Mm. Yeah, I think it has all the different things that are appealing to us as humans. Um as kids, when we're children, we play imagination games, right? We play, you pretend you're in a house or you pretend you're going on an adventure. And then for some reason, as we get older, we turn into adults and we stop doing that. And now there's this thing that allows you to do that again. It's not that you're being childish, but there is this element of being able to imagine that you're a different person or imagine another place or imagine another world, and you're not doing it just alone in your head while you're driving your car to
Right.
work. You're doing it with your friends, and it makes it feel more real. And video games, especially their graphics and so on, are getting better, but it's still very much there's a screen in the way of everything. And I think the idea is naive, and of course, we play VTTs these days with maps and things, but at the end of the day, our imagination is the most active element of all that. And I think humans have a need to tell stories too.
Mm,
We if you look at all the oldest civilizations, what do we find? We find their stories. We find stories about, we don't find many historical records. We find their stories. We find stage plays. We find all the theatrics. So I think it's something very human that until very recently, maybe with the industrial age, we stopped telling each other stories as adults, and I think this is
mm,
now a way to do that again. And I think that's why people get into it. I think that's the element, and it's exactly what you said. Everyone has a sort of media that they're familiar with. They really like books or they really like movies, and this is if whatever media you like, a tabletop game has an element of that to kind of hook you in. Um,
mhm.
by the way, what was your first character? Do you remember your first character?
Yeah, it must have been this like a AD&D campaign, like a half elf rogue, something I would never play this day. But I was playing the video game Thief. You remember the
Oh,
video game
yeah,
Thief?
I remember that. Yeah,
And I want to make something like
yeah,
got it from Thief. So I
yeah.
chose an edgy edge lord with a hood and all, something like that. But
That's right.
yeah,
I had that. I
because I
went
was
through
like
that phase.
teenager. What can I
Yeah,
do?
yeah. It
But
was
as for
always
Vampire the Masquerade, they were always Malkavians. Malkavian
Oh,
was
really?
and still is my favorite clan. Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, I can I can see that. I was always Toreador. Like
Ooh, nice,
those
nice
were always
option.
those were always fun to me. But we should talk about let's talk about the differences between, I mean, because we're going to talk about systems in general, and
Hmm.
this is a good example. Is I think people might who are started playing later might not understand the impact of Vampire, because up until
Mm.
then most people were just playing D&D. There were other systems and I played them too, but everyone, like, D&D was it's big now, but it was really the big one. And then in the 90s Vampire came along and it changed everything. It changed how you think about TTRPGs in general and what TTRPGs could be and what they could do. Like, you could have a character who's just an artist, like a Toreador. And it was like, wait, well, how do I fight? You know, you don't.
I am, yeah, I am discussing it with my some of my friends that in the early days of Vampire the Masquerade and all the World of Darkness games, they really leaned into combat because I think they were trying to compete with D&D,
Yeah.
or at least follow in its footsteps and make the transition of the D&D players to Vampire easier. But its true strength relied on its roleplay and its roleplay aspects. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it introduced a lot of different people that wouldn't normally play Dungeons and Dragons, not in the
Mm-hmm.
traditional sense. Whether that would be, more creative people, artists, more, influencing in character development rather than inventorying and leveling, and have like a cool scene in an Elysium that's like political intrigue and backstabbing instead of rescuing a princess or
Mm-hmm.
dungeoneering. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
That the main differentiating factor for me, it wasn't just for the role play. If you read the Storyteller's Handbook, the like at least I had like the third edition, was the green storyteller with the green layout.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it really teaches you how to tell a story primarily, not set up an encounter with five Nosferatu and one brew or whatever. It teaches you how to develop your soft skills, such as how to deal with problem players. How do you deal someone with like interrupting the flow? How you deal with someone who's always late? Not
Mm-hmm.
sure if that includes these particular two examples, but I remember having like problem players like a section and explaining how, as a storyteller, you can deal with stuff like that. With storytelling, with the having creating descriptions that use your all the senses, like use the how something smells, not just what they see or what they
Mm-hmm.
hear. Play with all the senses. All those advices were golden if you wanted to develop your skill as a narrator. And whereas in the DMG, the Dungeon Master Guide, you were just like lots of traps and lots of encounters and lots of magical items, but not really how to tell the story. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really any information how to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think it was a great pivot, and it really diversified the hobby and thus brought more games and more creatives and more people. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, it had a huge impact. It's not discussed enough, the impact that the World of Darkness had to the greater to the
Mm-hmm.
RPG scene.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's a great point. The early books did not have of D&D or any other system like GURPS or whatever, had no explanation of, like, how the things that actually happened at your table weren't really just the rules and the dice rolls. It was someone coming late or someone complaining or someone interrupting someone. There really were and there still are. I mean, the people problems never go away, but you're 100% right that that was the first book that actually talked about it openly and actually admitted that it's not just happening on, a map with dice, that this is a phenomenon, this is an experience that is a human experience with people talking to each other. And so that's an element, that's a dimension to the game that should be paid attention to. And now, I mean, anytime you see a new game come out, it will have a section about how to, there'll be an early chapter 1, chapter 2, how to game master. Almost always. Daggerheart, of course, has that. They have got a long section about that. But all these other systems in the last 5 to 10 years, they all have it too. And yeah, you're right. It's that it started with Vampire. Um, in Vampire, the other thing it also revolutionized was this idea that, D&D, you have an armor class and you roll a d20 against it, and second edition had Thaco or whatever. But the
Mhm.
basic the basic thing is you want to do something and you just roll this one dice. Vampire isn't like that, right? What is it? It's
Yeah.
two rolls together. There's an attribute plus a skill, and you have to stop and think about how are you going to use them together every time you roll something. What are your thoughts on mechanics like that?
Yeah, lots of D10s throwing. I think everybody loves throwing lots of dice compared to just one die.
Yeah.
Um, now the D20, the icosahedron, which is like actually a Greek word,
Right.
comes when it comes into mind. You're always thinking of Dungeons and Dragons and role playing. But yeah, there are many systems. I'm not particularly fond of any D6 system. I think
Mm.
like it's the worst die, in my opinion, is like that. It's like the simplest die there is. You have like a D12, that's the coolest die or whatever. The other is like a pyramid, whatever. So when it comes to systems like the World of Darkness, where you throw lots of dice, I think it's fun. It's fun for many, but yet, whereas the base system was fun and easy to learn, you combine two different categories,
Mm.
attribute and a talent or whatever, and the storyteller sets up a difficulty, let's say six, whatever, six and above success. And yet they kind of failed, in my opinion, with stuff like combat. If you want to stab someone in Barbara the Master, you have to make like 8 rolls and then soak and remove. But
Oh, right, the soak. I
wow,
forgot about that. Yeah, I
yeah,
have
that compared to Dance of Dragons, it really lacked in combat. It seemed like they want to make something innovative and different,
yeah,
but they should have made it easier, because it's a role-playing based game,
yeah.
not much harder. But
Mm.
they were learning and they created great games. So no complain, no complain.
Mm.
I'm not saying by any chance that I'm doing anything better. These
Yeah,
are the pioneers. These are the people that brought us here, really.
right.
But yeah, we should discuss open their failures as much as their successes. And like having to stab someone, you have to literally two people have to roll a number of six dice, six different dice rolls, which each involve multiple dice. It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy.
In a game about backstabbing, it's backstabbing is the most complicated action you can take.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's yeah, I totally forgot all the soak rolls. I haven't played it in such a long time.
I too
But
run a one shot these days, and that's why I remembered it. And I'm like, wow, why did they make it like that?
yeah. It was the okay. Here's another. Yeah, it took a while to get your head around the fact that you've got okay. There's a difficulty and that you have a certain number of successes. I think too. Like so, when you're rolling a d20 in D&D, you either hit or you don't hit or whatever.
Mhm.
But this also brought in the idea of how successful. Like okay,
Oh,
I got
right,
one
exactly,
success or two successes or three successes or I got one failure or I got two failures or whatever. So it put in that idea is like you can. It's not just yes or no. Did you do it? It's how well did you do it? And
exactly.
that I think that was another big thing. It was hard when I first started trying to run it because I was thinking like D&D, and it took a long time for me to realize that you have to play it a certain way. It is about telling a story. But I think the mechanics made me think that way. Another mechanic I really liked about it was, especially in Vampire, Werewolf, you had the rage mechanic, and then in Mage, the Ascension, it was like Quintessence, I think it was something like
And the
that.
paradox, I think, was the
Yeah, that's
most.
right. The
Yeah.
paradox points would add up because you were altering reality too much.
Mm,
Those mechanic, but the big one was Vampire, where what happens in Vampire? You have humanity points,
mm,
and as the game goes by, you lose humanity. Like that's what the game actually is. It's a story about someone who has recently become a vampire losing their humanity, and what does it take for them to lose it. And so it had a really I think that was the ultimate brilliance is they put that story into the character sheet. And I don't think many it's very difficult to do, so I'm not really complaining. It's okay if they don't do it, but if you can pull that off, I think that's a sign of a really powerful game design.
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the most important factions, and again, where they succeeded with adding morality and consciousness and like having trauma and guilt, and therefore losing your path, whether that be humanity or whatever else path of enlightenment you were following.
Mm,
With the disciplines, I think they kinda from one point forwards, they tried to basically find each and every superpower available and turn it into a vampire discipline. Like
mm.
if you remember, like True Bruja, there was like a bloodline that would bend time and time travel. What does time travel have to do with vampires? At some
It's
point
like,
they kind of lost track of everything imaginable has to be a discipline. But yeah,
right.
the core disciplines are very, very rooted to the aesthetics and
Mm.
the core game. Yeah.
How how important are the how do I want to say this? How important are the mechanics for the story that you want to tell? How much do you think they influence what kind of story you're actually going to have? So the reason I'm asking it is because I think there are a lot of people who only play D&D, and you frequently hear people online say things like, "I really want to play a science fiction, space adventure. How do I change D&D to sci-fi?" And it's like,
Mm.
well, there's a bunch of sci-fi. It's like I want to play D&D, but I want everyone to be vampires. It's like, well, okay, there's another system. So so there's people who think you can do it, and you can do that. Like, it's possible. So, but I think there's this kind of argument to be made for how important are the mechanics in influencing what the game experience is.
I might have a controversial opinion on something
Mm,
like that. I don't think they're that much important.
mm,
For example, you could play any TTRPG of any story and make it like really story centered and focused. By the main mechanic would be throwing darts on a dartboard. If you hit the red dot in the circle, it's a critical success. If you hit outside, it's a failure. And we actually played some experimental TTRPGs like that. And the storytelling doesn't really have to do with the mechanics. Now, if you introduce mechanics, and especially complex mechanics that integrate with the aesthetics and the vibe where you're trying to go, what type of story you try to tell, what type of game you're trying to design, then you can take see some opportunities and create some mechanics that really fit into the storytelling, much like humanity in Vampire the Masquerade, because you're playing personal story horror with anthropomorphic monsters that losing their sense of self. Yes, if you commit a crime, then you lose, and it's a research that you have to manage. Why? Because it's important. If you fall in torpor, you might stay there for hundreds of years, whereas if you had like higher humanity, you would stay for a week.
mm,
So yeah, this hurts me, so I have to be taking care, I have to take care of it.
mm,
So yeah, if you can totally play any game without focusing at the mechanics at all and just enjoying the story. But if you introduce the mechanics, make it in a way that makes sense with the game.
mm. Other than Vampire and D&D, what are some other systems that you've played that stick out in your mind as very well designed?
I really like Warhammer games
Mm,
from Fantasy Workshop, whether that would be the fantasy, Warhammer Fantasy, or Warhammer 40K.
mm.
Played like Rogue Trader, but we
Oh,
mainly played the custom, which is where you play actually Space Marines. And actually, I was introduced to the lore of 40K, the Horus Heresy, everything through prolonged Warhammer 40K campaign,
mm.
which is a D100 system, a
Right.
very lethal one, very, very difficult to survive. It doesn't have, it has some similarities with Call of Cthulhu. So I
Mm,
also played and I enjoyed it. But this is where I fell in love with the D100 system. And
mm,
personally, I think it's the best because basically it deals with percentages. You have 35% power. If you roll 135 is success, and above you're a failure. It also includes the degrees of failure, much like Vampire does. For every Usually it's for every 10% you're above or below better things or worse, respectively, things happen.
Mm.
And well, now I've played some Year Zero games like Alien with some push your luck mechanics where you can, oh, I failed, I might roll again, but if I fail, something even worse will happen. I've played some. The subplay that comes to mind. Tell you my main inspirations for my own game design, and I will get there, are Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 when it
Mm.
comes to power gaming and options. When it comes to the simplicity of system, it's D100 inspired in its lethality by Warhammer. And when it comes
Mm.
to leveling and how to spend your experience, it's closer to Vampire the Masquerade, where you don't level up and you don't follow a particular class, but rather you just spend your XP wherever you want to, giving you lots of options, and
Mm.
actually tells a nicer story.
Mm.
Where when my character was facing, like, I was imprisoned, I had to, progress my endurance or whatnot to survive. When I was spending time in the library, I put some dots into lore or this and
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the leveling system definitely is inspired from Vampire the Masquerade.
So you're busy with your own system, and do you make time to play any other systems anymore, or are you kind of focused?
Yeah, yeah. I just started a few like years ago being active on other communities as a player.
Mm.
So yeah, it's only 2 years ago that I actually started going out and visiting other communities as play as a player. Now we'll start actually running a bit of Shadow Dark, going back to the roots, back to the essentials.
Yeah.
I really like Shadow Dark. I think it's even better than 5e
Mm.
and easier to introduce new people to it.
Mm.
Usually people hear, oh, it's an old school OSR type of game, so it must be like Thaco. So I don't really want to play it. No, no, no. It's Shadow Dark. It's totally different. It's super. It has all the good things from 5e without all the noise and the clutter.
Mm.
Um, I played some more like obviously some games from whatever it's available, and there are so many games that I find super interesting that it's hard to find a group like
Yeah.
Alice is Missing, which is a crazy
Right.
game about a
Yeah.
girl being abducted, and you play with your cell phone and you
Yeah.
send silent messages. I want to try some of these games that have like this very cool, or like I've
Yeah.
heard again about 10 candles that you actually
Right.
light up 10
And the
candles,
candles
and
go out.
yeah, yeah, I
There's
want to
another.
play one of those games one day,
Yeah,
definitely.
there's another one where there's a bunch the block game Jenga, and I think as you take actions, you take a piece of the Jenga out. So
Oh
when it
wow,
finally,
that's super cool experimental game design.
it's like
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it right now, but yeah, that was the one I always
I
wanted.
love this
It's
idea. It's
I'll
quite
see if
fun. Yeah.
I'll see if I can find it, and I'll try and send it to you. It's like it was I yeah, I do like the kind of gimmicky, like this the like talk to each other in on your cell phone about your relationship with Alice. Like I love that creativity, and I love it when designers want to push the edge of what we're doing. I think everyone, even if you don't play it. Another thought that I had was that people get comfortable with D&D, and that's okay. And I basically agree with you. If you just are comfortable with D&D and you have a particular story you want to play, that's fine. But I do also think that by playing other systems, even if you don't like that system 100%, there's always something that you can remember from it that you like, and you can add to it. I mean, you could
Mm,
say I want to play a vampire campaign inside D&D. I really like this, humanity. Just make that a
mm.
homebrew rule, and
Yeah,
that's it. Then you've got it,
D
right?
D20 plus humanity. Yeah, it should work.
D20. So there's, we I think we get stuck and think that we have to play it exactly as it's written on the book, and you can always change it around.
Yeah, and yet all those books have like the golden rule that you can do whatever you want with the
Right.
rules.
Even
But
though
we
it
kind
says
of
that.
forget it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's start talking about your system a little bit, but I'd like to know what motivated you to want to make your own system in the first place.
Yeah, the story of Legitimine Games is that we started like 10 years ago as a game design team. Basically, we're the company up to like couple of years ago where we incorporated, and we started at game jams, like places where you go and you have like a theme, and then we have 48 hours to create a game that has all the components that you find on a complete game. Obviously, like a prototype, but still. So we started. I personally started gaining a lot of experience from working with other people in a limited amount of time and creating something. But even though I was like above all else a TTRPG player, I didn't really believe that there was a chance to actually publish and make a living from TTRPGs. It's still a
Mm.
questionable decision, but at the time it wasn't even at the table. So I was thinking in video games at start. Then I moved to tabletop games, actual board games, not tabletop RPGs. And we created lots of prototypes there, researched. And at some point, around 6 years ago, it was April of 2019, 1st of April, like a fool's day, I decided to go all in the production of this game that I always had in my mind from 2014, which combined all my favorite things into one. So the
Mm.
idea of metanthropes came up. Metanthropes is a Greek word which is basically meta, which is beyond, anthrop, which is human. So it's beyond human. And
Ah.
in this game, you play ordinary people which develop extraordinary metaphysical abilities, their meta powers, aka superpowers, but we use our own term. But it's exactly what you think it is. And then they are introduced into a vast multiverse of possibilities and a whole new landscape with different dimensions, entities, more people like them, and wherever you go next is up to the storyteller, up to the narrator and their group, whether you want to play like on a street level, solving crimes, or go like deep multiversal madness with the aliens and timeline hopping and cosmic solutions and discovering consciousness and
Yeah.
delving deep into dreams. There's a lot of ways to play this game. So Metanthropes has this complete open mindedness and how you want to play it. Like it's like this question that they say: if you were in prison for the rest of your life, what food would you like to eat? If you ask me what a TTRPG would you want to play, it would be for me Metanthropes. Why? Because in general, superhero tales have a great range,
Mm.
especially if you have the multiverse, which is any eras thrown into
Right.
it. So you can play in archaic times, which is basically gods amongst men, which is like fantasy, basically, or
Mm.
mythology. You can play modern, which is maybe has the more superhero approach. You can play cyberpunk, which combines, technology with maybe, the meta powers are augmentations, or you can play like far future where everybody's a metanthrope or they're facing like a grand challenge like an alien collective, or there's so many ways that you can play it, and there are so many superpowers, aka meta powers, that you can pick from. So that's why I chose this type of game to be my flagship and spend the rest of my life hopefully uh,
Yeah.
developing.
Yeah. I hope. I hope you
Following
can
that,
too. Yeah.
let's go. Following that, I chose D100 as a system
Mm.
for the reasons that we mentioned and already discussed.
Mm.
I throw in a couple of mechanics, much like we discussed, that I think they really fit with where I'm going with this. Let's mention a couple of them really briefly. Although I didn't try to rediscover the wheel, I didn't try to what type of mechanics I need to create for this one. I need to be, let's stay rooted to the 100 system
Mm.
and throw in whatever I find necessary. And the things that I found necessary is one, a destiny mechanic,
Mm.
much like a fate point or like some other system have it. Basically, a reroll. It's a glorified reroll. But instead of having it one per, a great completion of a great adventure, or when great something imaginary great happens, you can, as a GM, we call them narrators. As a narrator, you can award them at the end of every scene
Mm.
based on the role play of the players. Scenes is like, each session has couple of three scenes, something like that, the opening scene, the action scene, whatever. So you have plenty of them. So each session, they gain plenty of them. It's not a resource that is scarce and I have to keep for super dramatic moments. You can spend
Mm.
them and enjoy this push your luck mechanic without actually pushing your luck, because
Mm.
you choose how you divide them. Do I need to spend? So yeah, destiny is a resource that you can spend to do any amount of rerolls that you want. I
Mm.
failed. I can roll again, again, again. Okay, this one I keep. I like it. But it can save you from dying, and it's
Mm.
used as a resource to activate really high leveled meta powers. So if you
Mm.
want to access like a super powerful pyro form and become now combust the flames like Human Torch, you have to spend like a couple of destinies. So you need to min max and manage your destinies,
Mm.
and when it's rewarded when you roleplay. So it's a great incentive for everyone, even power gamers and min maxers, to roleplay at each given scene. The roleplay that they have chosen, you choose like an arc and a regression, which is like whatever my daily agendas and goal, what I do with my meta
Ah.
powers. This is the arc, and the regression is what keeps me rooted to my human passions and errors, because it's all about the meta and the anthrope. This is the
Mm.
dichotomy that defines the game.
Mm.
So whatever you do, you get awarded when you roleplay your destiny, and you can basically spend them to power game your way through.
Mm.
The other mechanic that I always found um, immersive and also makes a game, gives it the tactical aspect, but also you never get bored of it because you may activate the exact same thing and will have a different effect.
Mm.
We This system also has degrees of level. We call them level of success and level of failure. And when you activate a meta power, depending on the levels of success and or failure that you accumulate, something different might happen, and you kinda choose how to spend them. For example, let's say you have pyrokinesis, control flames, you want to create like a flamethrower effect. You roll lots of successes, you can extend the range, so you can do more damage, so you can include more targets, or with tracked, or there's lots of options. So you can choose the way that you activate it.
Mm.
But if you say they have three or more levels of failure, you will get burned.
Mm.
So metanthropes are really beings of limitless potential, because you don't have mana, spell slots, blood pool, energy, action slots. You can spam flamethrower all you want, but at some point you might get burned. That's the only side effect.
So
And
you got to be
yeah,
careful.
hopefully, if you get a critical failure, you will get like burned seriously. But yeah, so these are the two mechanics that I think like I just wanted to really put it there. And following that, we have like some minor influences here and there, but generally I didn't try to create more noise that I really you really have to get, because sometimes I guess designer, you have this idea and I want to
Mm.
throw it in there, but I might create other games in the future and throw all the other stuff to other ideas that are more appropriate. For this one, I want to be easy accessible to new players and easy for GMs to describe it to others.
Mm.
And then we have also the VTT that solves all the problems in between and all the crunchiness. But
Right.
yeah, this is what I wanted to tell you about Metanthropes as an opener.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So the first thing that came across my head when you were explaining that, it's number one, I love the idea that you can kind of jump into any genre. I mean, we were just talking about how you got, everyone wants to try and fit D&D to everything, but actually this system really can be everything. You can do a far future, you could do a zombie apocalypse, you could do, there's nothing you can't do. And not only that, but you can jump between those things as you play. You can
Yeah,
jump into, if you are, you're in the Stone Age, and then something happens, and now you're in, the 21st century with us, and then something else happens, and then you're in the deep future, or you're on another planet, or you're in another plane of existence where it's endless. And I there's other systems, like I was thinking about, that try to say, okay, you can play any type of game you would um like GURPS would be an
yeah,
example, where you can say, but you kind of get stuck into that. So if you say, I'm playing modern version of GURPS, then you're sort of like, I mean, technically you could take people, but it's a little bit harder. It's not built for that intentionally. You can do that. You could take a character who starts off in the same and has kind of the same journey, but this seems like a much more elegant way of doing it and just saying like that is the expectation, is that you can go anywhere. Your players can go anywhere. Um, how about social interactions and things like that? Like, what's the equivalent of a charisma check?
Oh, we do have we have like body, mind, and soul. These are the main characteristics when you create a character. You choose one. If you do, you want me to get into like details of character creation
Yeah,
and stuff? Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
So the first thing that you choose actually is your prime meta power. This one that defines everything. You can have lots of meta powers, by the way. You're not like Cyclops, and you'll have like the Optic Blast, and that's it. You can have Optic Blast and teleport and mind control. You might spend a little bit more XP if you were like only. It's just all about how you decide to develop your character. But you can have lots of meta powers, but your prime meta power is very important because it kind of sets your basis.
Mm.
So let's say we create like a telepath. We have telepathy, and then we choose from body, mind, and soul, which is the first, second, the third pick. We will go with mind, then soul, then body. So our mind starts with 30%, the soul is 20, and the third is 10%. Pretty simple thus far. And underneath each of the three, there are three things with other stats, which are the things that you actually roll. Under
Mm.
body, we have endurance, power, and reflexes. Super self-explanatory. Again, you choose 1, 2, 3, first, third, and tertiary pick. And the thing that you add is you add 3d10 to the first, 2d10 to the second, and 1d10 to the third. So you might roll, let's say, 5, 5, 5, and also have 30% basis. Now, this is my power, and this is 45%. And this is how my character starts. From mind, we have perception, manipulation, and creativity. Manipulation is everything that has to do with charisma and seduction, subterfuge, intimidation, everything that has to do with your blah blah and people skills. Perception is all your evaluation, acoustics, and spot, listen, calculations, valuation, all those stuff. And creativity is all the crafting and theory crafting, blueprints, repairs, everything that has to do with your creative type of mind.
Oh.
And then we have the soul. I went a little bit further with the soul stats. We have awareness. Awareness is everything that's like your intuition, your
Mm.
sense motive, your feeling of the paranormal, the metaphysical, but also how you trust your gut, your instincts. You have consciousness. Consciousness
Mm.
is a little bit unique. It's not something that you really see in other games. It's your memory recollection. It's the way that you talk with yourself, like your inner
Mm.
voice, your convictions, your how you deal with trauma, how you deal with memory, how you
Mm.
justify the things that you do. And
Mm.
then we have willpower, because every good game needs to have a willpower, which is
Right.
like your mental fortitude and your discipline and resilience and so on.
Mm.
So you throw all these dice, create your character. You might, and also, yeah, I should mention that we also, if you roll a 10, it's a splash effect, and you keep rolling tens until you stop rolling 10, and you add
Oh,
the
nice.
the total. So during character creation, this still counts, this rule. D10s we roll with damage, so with D100 system and D10s for damage, ranges, everything that's numerical. So we don't include any other dice. It's a
Oh.
D10 and D100 only.
Mm.
But yeah, imagine that the character creation, you may roll like 10 and 10 and 10 and 10 and create like a
Yeah, you could
monster.
be
Yeah. So I
ridiculously
really like
powerful
this thing.
still.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you have basically 9 things to invest. So you might be great at something, but not so good at another. You don't get to choose, relocate. I will take all my
Mm.
tens and put them where I want, but you can
Mm.
choose where to invest and where not to invest.
Mm.
And then you choose your roleplay stuff, your arc and regression, as I mentioned, which basically award you with destiny and feed you with experience. And then some stuff like what your background, like I was good with computers, but they don't really play that much role into this game. If you're, it's like give you access. If you're a physicist, you need to have like science, a few dots in science. I used to say in Vampire, but it's not like it's not super cheap in experience, and they're not so important. I want the focus to be around the 100 different meta powers that this game has.
Mm.
So basically, anything imaginable, the game includes. And this is where the focus of the game is. It's between the dichotomy of a meta and an anthrope. So it has all the human side and roles and nature, but basically the meta is your meta powers and how you use them.
Mm. So, how much playtesting did you have you been doing? So one of the things I'm always interested in about game design in general is some people have a really strong idea and say I would like it to be this way, and they just start writing it down. But then other people will play test it for years and years and years before they get it right. How do you approach play testing, and how do you decide like when you're going to change like, how often do you change rules?
Yeah,
Does
these are
it's a
very cool
must be a long
questions.
process.
These are very, very good questions. I most certainly fall into the second category. I've received some feedback from some project managers that were like, "What the hell are you doing?" I've played at least 100 sessions before going public.
Wow,
These are a lot, before
that's a lot.
actually going the website, to public. This is with only closed groups. And the good thing is that the vast core of the system hasn't really changed from day
Mm,
one. Like this thing that I described here from day one. The all the other playtests is around the the meta powers themselves, because you have 100 different meta powers, anything imaginable, and they go from level 1 to 5
mm.
without the epic level compendiums which are coming to the future, like the base game. So we have from the get go 500 different things that you can do and choose from. So they need to be play tested, right? You need to be play tested a lot and a lot and a lot, because I want to have like a nice balanced game that you can also play like an arena, type
Mm,
situation. It focuses on the role play and all those meta. Something very important, Aaron.
yeah.
Listen, to that is really important. I've seen, without throwing trash and sand to any other superhero games out there, I've seen a lot of superhero games that have like, maybe up to 100 or 59 or whatever other numbers, but they kinda are 50 out of 59 ways to do damage or heal or gain
Right.
buffs, or it's actually just damage and teleporting damage and whatever damage. With this game we went like a lot of powers for espionage, for exploration, for entering your dreams and exploring your consciousness, from creating dimensions, from creating objects. So, we have like 10 different classifications, and each classification has 10 meta powers. And out of the 100, it's like 30% it's combat oriented. The rest
Mm,
can be like for manipulators, for espionage, or every type of social situation. Cosmonauts for explorations, animators
mm,
for crafting and raising armies or creating machines or whatnot.
uh-huh.
Arbiters who are like bending the rules of the game, like time bending, reality warping,
Oh,
negating other meta powers. Have utilitarians, which is a little bit of everything, and kineticists, which are about the damage. Controllers, which are all about crowd control, and we have like lots and lots of different options. You can really play anything. You can play a session which is like clairvoyance, you can see the future and gain information. You can play like a story which is clairvoyance and manipulators, deeply focused on role play and intrigue and espionage. Or
mm,
you can play controllers and kineticists and animators who have a geopolitical war with areas, conquering areas. You can play like arena with kineticists and Aegis and hammer and beat down. There are lots of options. So when it comes to play testing, all those wonderful things needed a lot of play testing. And you ask a secondary question that was equally cool. Can you remind me? Because I got a nerdgasm
oh yeah,
out of my own game.
that's
I
yeah, that's
forgot it.
basically it. I think I'm curious. Like, in the process of play testing, how do you decide if you're going to keep a mechanic or change, introduce a new one or change it? Like, how do you
Hmm.
decide? because you have to be careful, right? Like if you're designing, it could get too easy to, if you do a lot of playtesting, to just every time you do a new session, change the system just because that one session had something happen in it. And like, how do you make sure that you've got
Yeah.
some consistency across the game, but you're still responding to feedback, but you don't change it too much? Like, where's the line for you?
Before going into details about my personal experience with this game, the thing that I've learned that applies, it's applicable to all game design mediums, whether that would be a board game or a video game or a TTRPG, or even like a party game, the less is more. It's like super important rule. Like
Mm,
the, the less rules that you include and mechanics is even better. No
mm,
matter how much you think that the game would suffer if I remove this core mechanic, is it like something like humanity? Is it something like destiny, which is important for the storytelling of the game?
mm,
If not, cut it.
mm.
Don't you be afraid.
Just
Don't get
get it out.
emotionally. You can add it to another game. For
Mm,
example, let's say I wanted to introduce like a cool stress mechanic that if you fail with metanthropes a roll, you have to roll, and when if you fail again, you cannot activate any meta powers for 3 rounds because you're stressed. Okay, it's interesting, but maybe it fits the zombie game, which is
mm,
you're hunted by zombies and it's a zombie survival game like Walking Dead or whatnot. So why include it in this game if it has to do with meta powers or the dichotomy between meta and anthrop? So when you're a game designer, you have to have a north, how do you call it, like a compass, like points to the north. Is an expression, but I always fail that expression. What do you call like a north star?
North Star, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you have to have a north star and ask yourself, this thing that I want, is it a cool idea because it's a cool idea or because it fits to the
Mm,
exact game that I'm creating? Because if that's the second thing, you need to cut it out. So
mm,
for me personally, as I'm really privileged that I created a game that has had strong roots and I didn't change much throughout all these years. It's all about play testing, all that content. But I have to say that nobody, I got wiser these 5 years later. But at the beginning, for example, I included a mechanic that you can have a sidekick. Okay, it
uh,
sounded fun. And the amount of speed that you gained, you could spread, divide with your sidekick. But basically, and you control your own sidekick. So basically, you could have two characters instead of one. And that was
yeah.
completely broken, and it didn't really work, and it like messed the whole game. So
No more
obviously it didn't
no more
stick.
sidekicks.
No, no, no. It could be
Yeah.
an NPC, and you can have individual relationship with that character that is controlled by the narrator, not from you, because you're
Mm,
playing two characters instead of one. That's so convoluted and so weird. And it kind of matched with the superhero aesthetic. It didn't match with where I wanted to metanthropes to be
yeah.
going at. So obviously you make some mistake. But this is what like from the first year, maybe first 6 months. After that we didn't change much, but we refine and redefine some things. And the next big changes that are coming to the game, I'm still gonna cut some things. For example, I included like a thing called cycle, which is basically 2 rounds. And the thing is that every cycle you roll your initiative, so you don't roll
Mm,
initiative every turn. It's every 2 turns. But so I have like the durations like 2 cycles, so on. But at the end of the day, I can say 4 rounds instead
mm,
of 2 cycles. So why do they have to learn this new name? Even it's super simple and I explain to you in 2 seconds. Why do they have to play to keep that in mind? So probably it's gonna be cut, and
mm,
it's gonna be 4 rounds instead of 2 cycles, and
mm,
and we're gonna say every odd number of rounds you roll for initiative. Problem
mm.
solved. You don't need to
There
introduce
you
something.
go.
So it's just details like that you sculpture and you create an even better game, I think.
Mm. Are there any live actual plays that we can watch? Do you frequently get on, for example, do you get on Twitch or do you get on YouTube where we can see you playing and see it in action?
Well, I too, as many other creatives, had the issue of going on live on the screen, and especially that I'm not a native speaker, and I was like, okay, we used to role play because we thought it was cool in English between our friends,
Mm,
but I'm not used at all at describing the area and explaining the rules and repercussions of a failed dice roll in English. So
mm,
I was really worried at first
Mm,
And I started playing as a player a few couple of years ago, and I played like vigorously to until like I felt more comfortable in
mm,
English. Um, so as soon as I started to playing some one shots, some introductory sessions with people. I received some feedback. I improved. I watched over my, the whole recording, and I seen where I can improve. And I did it
mm,
over and over and over until I felt that this is pretty cool. And then to promote the second Kickstarter we did for Metal Throw Anthologies, I sat down and created an amazing, like an A team of role players from shout out to RX Oliver and his community.
mm.
He's from Scotland, and we're actually one from Scotland, one from Ireland, one from England, one from US. Like I had like a crazy amount of accents to
Nice.
deal with, and there's an actual play of 10 sessions with the very first version that was recorded of Metanthrope's anthologies, which is by the way a fully multiversal story that takes you from antiquities era Library of Alexandria to modern cyberpunk in a futuristic city of Nea Agra in India, and far, far, far future with like humanity's extinct. It's a battle between metanthropes and an alien hive mind. And you play this storyline, and this is an actual play that you can see. And we're also concluding like our third, but our second actual play run of Metanthropes Anthology, but unfortunately it's in Greek because
Oh.
it's in the Greek community. Because I have completely sidetracked the local community. Like most Greeks don't even know my game. I was only focusing on English
Oh,
speaking
wow.
content, and I wanted to go back to the roots. This is where
Yeah.
I learned about Shadow Dark too, and I'm gonna DMing a bit of Shadow Dark there. Shout out
Mm.
to the Lair Discord community. It's a huge community, Greek community with 1,000 or more players,
Wow.
and I wanted to get active and get in touch with your roots and your local
Yeah.
community.
That's great. Well, I can tell you right now that I will. We were talking a little bit about before the recording that the next my next phase of content creation is doing actual plays, and I would love to play your game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
just yeah,
Let's do
and
it. Let's do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Let's
I was
record
like,
it.
yeah,
I will host it. You just bring your friends and your
yeah,
good company, and
yeah. It sounds amazing.
we'll absolutely have. I would love to introduce you to
Yeah,
Metanthropes.
yeah. It
It has
sounds
a
great.
really cool introductory story too,
Oh, that's great. Okay, yeah. We'll just.
operatic themes, like the
Oh, nice.
multiverse is a cosmic symphony. Yeah, no spoilers. I will let you enjoy it when we play.
Okay.
But
Uh,
absolutely, yeah, one
I
hundred
do.
percent.
Wait, where's my finger? I do like pyrokinesis. I'll tell you right now
Easy,
that that's
yeah,
usually
easy,
my
easy.
thing.
Oh wow! Then
So,
I mentioned it was out of the blue, and out of the 100, I figured
out
it
of the
out.
100, that's the one you mentioned, but that's the one. I mean, maybe there's some subliminal like, thing going on here.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Well, it was great talking to you again, and I cannot wait till we meet up again. And yeah, and I would yeah, let's get online and play it. And we'll start looking at organizing that. It'll be so much fun. And so thank you for making the time. It was great. It was great to hear kind of the mind of a creator who's actually making games. Like we usually on this show so far, we have been mostly talking to dungeon master, people who are really experienced DMs talking about more D&D specifically. But I really think it's valuable when anytime there's an independent game creator to get out there and show the world what they're doing. I think the whole community benefits from that. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Much like with our previous talk, that you were the guest and I was the host, I had so much fun. So thank you so much for inviting me over, Aaron. Thank you
Yeah.
for giving me a chance to talk about metanthropes. 100%. Let's roll some metanthropes and
Yeah,
play some meta
Metanthropes is,
part
is so
individuals
fun.
anytime you want.
Okay.
And yeah, you can find me on Legitimine Games. This is where you can find the actual plays and all the things that are coming to the future. We have so much things in store, new maps, new tokens, new UX, new updating our website. We're doing so much stuff. So yeah, you can all find everything at metanthropes.com.
All right, and
It's the
we'll
best
put
thing.
the links in the
Oh
description
yeah,
here too, so you
absolutely.
can. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much. Thank you so much
Have a
for
great
inviting.
day. All right. See ya.